or maybe each week on every Friday or every Sunday or whatever day you have to put to sit here and make sure that you keep your stuff in order, you're going to have to set that time aside, because in order for your business to grow, you need to set that time aside. These habits create the foundation that allows your business to grow without financial confusion. Our second one is bringing in the heavy machinery, right? So once your business begins growing, manual tracking methods are no longer sufficient, as I stated before. You can start off using Excel, but that's not going to be feasible later. This is where an accounting software becomes extremely valuable. Um, Software such as QuickBooks help businesses automate financial processes instead of manually entering every transaction. And you don't necessarily have to use QuickBooks because there's so many out there, but software can connect directly to your bank account and categorize those activities automatically. So for instance, if you're a person and you have to, let's say you're in the transportation industry, you're going to have a lot of fuel, right? And instead of you going inside of, the establishment and getting a receipt, printing it off, putting it in the vehicle, it gets lost, you clean it out, or it's old, you forgot, or the ink disappears. If you use that business card, you swipe it, it's automatically going to go into that software automatically. So now the keeping the boxes of receipts are gone. We don't have to worry about that, right? We're making sure that now everything, every transaction that you have can now use that card, it automatically goes to your accounting software. Now, a lot of things we see, like if you have like a bill of lading or something like that, or you're dealing with cash, because there are some vendors that only take cash, but also tell people like it's your business and you have to lay the ground rules of how you do business. If you don't want to be a cash center organization, then you don't have to, but you have to set those rules. Um, so, making sure that you put those things in order. If you do have, if you do things and you do it in cash and you have those receipts, that's something that you need to tell part of your team immediately, right? This is where you're going to have to be having that accountability for running your organization and writing it down or sending that email or taking a picture of it. We'll talk about that a little later. Um, Another benefit of this heavy machinery of this accounting software is your financial visibility. Now we get to see how much you're making, how much you're not making. We want to see and understand the true financial health of your business. So now we get to see those financial statements, your profit and loss, like I said, seeing how much you're making or not. We can run it by month, by week, by year. It's endless of the things that we can run. We can go and look and see how much are you spending on fuel? How much are you spending on payroll? We can look at all those different things. Each by different categories. We can also see your cash flow. How is your cash flowing? Just because you see $40,000 in the bank, is that, some people are like, oh, I want to go buy a new truck or a new machine. That might not be feasible because now we get to look at your overhead because now we have that visibility now. So it may be, how much does it cost to run your organization? And a lot of people don't know, they're guessing. So with these accounting software, there's no more guessing. We know that it costs, I don't know, $42,000 a month to run your organization. So you going to go buy some heavy machinery or a truck and you have $40,000 doesn't make sense because it costs $42,000 to run your organization every month. Another thing that we can see from this accounting software is who owes you money. Who owes you money and who do you owe money to? We get to see that now. You get to see what money is coming in. You also now get to see if this vendor is slow paying. Sometimes we don't think about you're running your business and you didn't get paid for a load, and you eventually get paid, but you don't know the time period that it takes to get that payment. So now we can see with this software that X vendor takes about 3 weeks to pay an invoice, right? So this also will help you determine as you're growing, what vendors do you want to keep and what vendors you don't. Maybe you can't deal with someone that's slow paying. So it's going to be, you know, your business really depends on, those payments and making sure that you pay your people to do the businesses or do whatever it is that you're doing. So I think that's also very important. So now you get to see all those different things. So the automation of these accounting softwares really, really, really can very much benefit you. So the automated foreman. So that is basically going to be your accounting software. It acts like an automated foreman, right? Overseeing your financial operations. Um, Modern systems can automatically reconcile bank transactions, categorize the expenses, flag unusual activity. It can see all these different things. As I stated, even now pulling in an analysis of things. Some platforms even use AI. That's something that we're seeing the rise of to identify patterns or recommend corrections. However, with AI and all these different technologies, they should always be viewed as a tool rather than a replacement for professional oversight. As you know, it can be wrong, right? You can use your Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever, but something's wrong. It's not always right. So it definitely still needs some professional oversight. Software helps process data efficiently, but business owners still need to understand the information and make more strategic decisions. So this is what I was talking about, different vendors, you know, um, the AI software may be able to say, okay, yes, this person is spending, they're paying it 3 weeks late, and we can look at market rates and things like that. But you still need to understand the information and make decisions if you want to grow. It makes sense when you have somebody that's going to help you make the decisions for the future, whatever it is that you decide to do. If you want to buy another truck, if you want to get into a different business line, this is what's, having someone to help you do that is going to be important. Another thing is cash flow is one of the most important factors in business survival, as we talked about. So, many businesses fail because they are not, or excuse me, they are unprofitable, but that's because they don't, manage their cash flow efficiently. The accounting software allows business to create invoices quickly and accept online payments. Again, there are so many ways. There's some people I know, they don't use accounting software at all, but then they use somewhere like Square or PayPal. And that's only one part of your business. You're just seeing the money that's coming in, but then you're not paying attention to the money that's going out. So that's a thing that I see a lot. People have these invoice systems, um, Clover. I mean, so many different ones out there. And I'll send the invoice out and they just send it out and they get paid, but they're not tracking the expenses part. They're not tracking what they're spending. Um, and then the other thing is with those invoice systems, there's also something called accounts receivable. If you're sitting here and you're billing, sometimes, you're billing late, sometimes people are like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I didn't bill this vendor and you're billing them a week out, um, or you forgot to bill somebody. There's all kinds of things that can mess with your cash flow. Um, the accounting software allows business to create the invoices and accept online payments. And now we get to figure out, again, every number has a story. So now we get to see that, okay, you're billing this vendor a week late, or like I said, they're paying late, things like that. Now we get to see the invoice. We can see if it's net 10, net 30, those different things that we can look at when it comes to cash flow. So um, when customers pay online, it's typically received faster than traditional checks. I'm a big proponent now, checks do take a long time to clear sometimes, or if you're at a new bank account and maybe your cash flow um, is not, built up yet, then the bank may hold the check for a while. So we definitely push towards trying to do that online payments. And I know the merchant fees are getting higher and higher with that as well. But, it's all about part of making sure that we accelerate the cash flow. Even improving payment speed by a few days can make a major difference in your ability to cover payroll, pay suppliers, and reinvest in your business. Excuse me. So, this is probably a huge um, thing that we see that businesses fail is because they can't keep the cash flow going. So we definitely want to work towards keeping that cash flow and just making, like I said, a couple of tweaks here, getting payments faster, um, making sure that you can take whatever type of payments there is so that, customers can pay in a timely manner. So all those things matter. The next thing, we want to manage your crew without an administrative headache. Payroll management can become very, very time consuming for businesses that have employees or subcontractors, as you guys know, who have businesses with that you have to pay payroll, right? It takes time. You have to check and make sure that everybody clocked in, clocked out. If somebody didn't clock out, of course, that throws the time system off if you have a time system. Manually going through counting of the hours. If they work 3.75 hours, it does not accumulate 3.75 in payroll terms. It might be 3.62 hours. So just looking at, a way to make it easy. So, with systems, there's automatic payroll systems that help simplify the process by scheduling payments, calculating taxes, generating reports automatically. You may have an organization where you're like, look, no one could do overtime. These automated payroll systems can let you know that, this employee is at this particular amount of hours. If you have someone clocking in and clocking out through a system, again, there's so many different systems that you can use, some free, some paid, where you can keep track of these things. Also, people like to see what they get paid. They want to look at their pay stubs, right? Writing a check and then printing it off, that takes time, right? And you really don't have the time. You want to simplify as much as you can when it comes to running your business, right? And also, you want to be fair to your employees or subcontractors to make sure that they can see what they're doing. And, that also builds company morale and things like that. So little things that you can do administratively so you don't have these different headaches. A lot of payroll systems integrate with accounting software. Some accounting software already have payroll into it. So, making sure that you're tracking employee time and project costs, can also be recorded simultaneously. So when you're running a project, sometimes, you know, you get paid at, different time parts of the project. You might get paid 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. Now we get to sit here and use that accounting software to see how profitable or unprofitable you are being with that project. We get to, calculate the employees and subcontractors that work, the materials that have been bought, so we get to track the time, the materials, and then your pay. And then we can also see, looking at all those different analyses to see if it's time for you to do another project this way, maybe the amounts that you charge may need to be tweaked. It might need to go up. I don't know. So, different little things that we can use with these payroll systems, especially when it comes to project costs. This integration can definitely save time and reduce a lot of administrative errors. And it saves you time by not sitting down at your desk, writing everything out, or using Excel, typing everything out. I mean, and these things take time, right? I'm not saying switch these over tomorrow, but, it's also a trust factor, right? Some people are like, I don't want to use an accounting system. I don't want to use AI, but honestly, number one thing that I see in this industry is the time, right? And people get very, very, very overwhelmed by all the work, the administrative work that they have to do when there's a lot of different softwares out there that can assist you in, doing research and making sure that you get a good team that's going to help you pick the right system also matters. So we talked about keeping up with every project on track. So of course, tracking projects is extremely, extremely important, right? You need to make sure that you're getting paid on time. You need to make sure that you're making money. You need to make sure that you're able to pay, your subcontractors and everything. So every project has multiple expenses, as you all know, materials, the labor, the equipment, subcontractor costs, the fees, the city, the inspections, dumping. I mean, so many different things that goes into a project. So we want to make sure that we are able to track that. Your accounting systems can allow the business to track expenses and determine whether, like I said, if the project is profitable or not. And that's very, very important in your line of business. This information, as I stated, is extremely valuable when you're about to go bid for future work. So as you guys know, with DOT, they might say, hey, we need someone to do X. And then you're like, oh, I did that before. Let me go and look and see how much did that project cost when I did it back in February. And you can go look, you can see how many men it took to do it, how long it took to do it, or, the time, everything. You can look at all of that. So then now you can bid appropriately and you won't be underselling yourself, basically. So having that analysis on hand is important as you're building your organization, as you're bidding for future work. All that matters. So if you understand the true cost of your previous projects, like I say, you can make better pricing decisions moving forward. And it's not always perfect, right? You also got to build in contingencies about projects. As adding a certain percentage by using these project-based systems, we can sit here and look at, what a contingency was at the last project. So just making sure that we have a good understanding of all that. And again, it's not necessarily you have to use an accounting system. They have multiple project systems out there. Was it Jobber, Build a Trend? There's multiple ones out there. And they also integrate with your accounting system as well. Again, I think I have to keep in mind, I always see one side. We talked about invoicing. We'll see somebody use an invoicing system, and then they use a project system. And again, we're only seeing one part of or a couple parts of what your business truly is doing. The invoicing is only showing the money coming in. The project is only showing a small part. It's just doing the materials, the labor, the equipment, subcontract costs. But then it's not taking into effect the things that you might have going on outside of that. Fuel, maybe, getting your truck serviced and things like that. If you have to pay rent at a building or something, that is not going to be tracked on your CRM for your project costs. So making sure that all these systems integrate is really going to help you make sound decisions in the future. So I talked about earlier about taking pictures on stuff. So as you know, you're on the move. I talked about, if you had to pay something in cash, and I talked about how you throw it in the truck, you forget about it, ink disappears, things like that. Now you can definitely take a picture of it, right? Taking a picture of it now is no longer tied to if it was left in a car, left on a desk, or it fell while you was getting out your vehicle. It was raining that day, so now taking a picture of it really quick, now it's on your phone, and now you can upload it to your accounting software. And then this allows you to monitor your financial activity directly from your phone. So you can also look at things on your phone, which I'm sure a lot of you probably already are doing. Um, you get to check financial reports and invoices, review expenses, and even approve transactions while working on a job site. You can also look and see who's working, who's not working. Um, a lot of these accounting systems also have geofencing, right? We see some of that where people are like, I got multiple projects going on, and I need to make sure that people are where they're supposed to be because, again, you can't track everything and everybody, especially if you have multiple projects and multiple people working on those projects. It's difficult for you to be in multiple places at one time. You're only one person. So this level of accessibility helps business owners stay informed about their financial position at all times, making sure that, everything is going according to plan. Of course, with your project managers that you have on site with these different things. So while accounting software handles the big picture of everyday tracking, it still requires these small tools, like I said. Having these tools, like I said, to capture receipts, expense tracking tools, mobile banking applications. Let's say your business is you spend a lot of time in a car, which means or a vehicle, you're going to have a lot of mileage, right? Maybe you're a truck driver. Maybe you get paid off of your mileage. Maybe you subcontract with the organization and they have those automatic mileage things built into the trucks. Now you can have your tool that corresponds with that just to make sure that it's, right. Sometimes I've also seen where, the dashboard that they subcontract with said that they, did 480 miles, but they also had the app on at the same time. The app said 520 miles. So, that 40-mile difference can be a lot. So just making sure that you're using these different hand tools to help you capture, you know, some data immediately rather than try to remember things later. So I think that is very, very important. So you've heard me reference the shoebox multiple times, and this is a great picture to depict what I mean about the shoebox method. And as you can see in this picture, the the receipts are coming out of the box, which means some things may have fell out. You can see where the shoebox is. It's all beat up. The area, you can see someone's laying down, someone's crumpled up. That's something that is kind of like leaving in the past. We do not want to see that. Um, we want to make sure that that shoebox is eliminated. Um, and we talked about, ways that you can eliminate that box throughout the year. There is a box that you now would turn to and use. That's going to be your accounting software or your CRM or, your invoicing system. Whatever it is now to alleviate these receipts is what we're trying to get you to do, because this shoebox and you bring an accountant that they charge by the hour to go through that. So some people are like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. Well, yeah, because it took 3 hours to go through receipts, or maybe not even taking that long now because a lot of accounting organizations use software as well that can, go through receipts as well. But still, it eliminates the guesswork out of everything. We may see a receipt and it doesn't give us a lot of detail. We don't know what it is. So making sure that you have this accounting software instead of using the box is going to be just more beneficial even for you. It's going to alleviate the unnecessary stress, and it's going to eliminate the likelihood of missing important deductions, so making sure that we digitize the receipts to ensure that every expense is recorded and stored securely. Um, and you can see here they're taking a picture of it. But as I stated earlier, if you use your business bank card, whatever card that these receipts came from, it'll automatically come into the software. So even doing some of this picture taking of a receipt sometimes not even necessary anymore because you have everything, you have an accounting system. So we don't necessarily need to keep the gas receipts and things like that. There are receipts that we still would need to see if you bought a vehicle or you have a financial document, if you finance something or something like that, we still need to see that paper. But for the most part, if you go to the hardware store, if you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, wherever you go, and you swipe that card, we don't necessarily need the receipt. We have the ability to see it through the accounting system. And even if you're a person like, I want to keep a receipt for everything, that is fine. Take a picture of it and we can still store it in the accounting system digitally. So we still have that. So that's important. So still talking about receipts, many receipt tracking applications now include advanced features that simplify record keeping. So here you can see it highlighted the name and the amount that was put up here at the hardware store. These apps can scan receipts, extract important information, categorize them automatically, and store the records securely in the cloud. So like I stated, take a picture, it'll come into the accounting system. So if you went to Lowe's on March 9th, you can find that, in the accounting system, click on it, and we can still see the invoice. Still see the receipt. So this automation eliminates manual data, and it ensures that your financial records remain organized throughout the year. So the next thing we want to talk about is managing mobile money. Mobile financial tools allow businesses to manage payments and financial transactions efficiently. You can deposit funds, transfer money, pay vendors, and manage business accounts directly from your phone. These tools are convenient and they also maintain strong security protections. As you guys know, maybe even from a year ago or 2 years ago, everything has multiple things built in to keep your information protected. You log into your bank now, it might have facial recognition, fingerprint recognition. You have to also verify and get a code from your cell phone number, from your business number, from your email, just to make sure that your information is staying secure. Well, also your accounting systems also have that 2-3-way security as well to make sure that everything is staying secure as well. We talked about, depositing funds. So maybe you did get a check, you could take a picture of it, as you guys know, and it'll automatically deposit into your bank account. You can also transfer money if you have a payroll account and an operating account. Transfer money into that operating account. Making sure that you pay vendors. You can also use that right directly from your mobile phone. And, looking at your business accounts directly from your phone, that should be a habit, logging in to look and see what you have in the bank, and things like that, what you have going out of your bank. That makes a big difference. And as I stated, there's multiple platforms that you can use as well. Bringing in the master general contractor, right? While technology provides tools, it cannot replace professional guidance. We talked about that. Just like a construction project requires a general contractor to oversee the work, businesses benefit from having an accountant who monitors the financial systems and ensures compliance. Professional oversight ensures financial accuracy, regulatory compliance, and long-term planning. Like I said, using these apps, using Excel, using whatever it is, AI that you're using, but that's not AI can't build a house alone, right? Again, we talked about the importance of blueprint. You have to build a blueprint first, right? You have to tell the AI what it is that you want it to do, but that's just one part of the house. That's just one part of building the project. But you need to make sure that everything's structured. You need to make sure that that foundation that was built is going to withstand as you're going forward and you're growing your business. So this is where that professional oversight comes. So the accounting factor. So the accounting software generates numbers, right? But you need somebody to interpret the numbers. You might look and see on your profit and loss that we spoke about earlier that you have a profit each year. And that's good. People smile about having a profit. But what does that mean? uh, you being in the green every year, it is good. But were you in the green enough? Or if you were in the green to a point where now you have to pay so much taxes on it, this is where the accounting factor comes in. We can analyze the trends, we can identify tax strategies, provide recommendations that improve financial performance. It allows you to really focus on your operations while knowing that your finances are being managed properly. And what I mean by that is most people get into business to make money, right? It's because it's something that you like to do. If you're a general contractor, you got into it because you like to you like the business, but not one person understands every aspect of business. And if you do, you're lying to yourself. You might understand bits and pieces of a business, like you might know enough to be dangerous, but you don't know everything. And no one person can sit here and do everything in the business, right? It's very difficult, especially if you're growing. If you're growing, there's no way that you can do the accounting, have uh, have employees and subcontractors, run a project efficiently, bid. You're going to have an admin to do certain things. You're going to have someone that's going to help with you with your bids. You're going to have a project manager that's over your thing. You need a good team, right? So the accounting factor is part of your team, right? Making sure that you're able to efficiently run your business, and then making sure that on the back end that you have everything that you need to grow your business, making sure that they're doing that tax planning so that you don't get a aha bill at tax season, right? We're in tax season now. We have a lot of people who did not, have a tax planning, right? And so now they're paying Uncle Sam all this money, that they just thought, oh, I was in a green, but you being in a green also had an adverse effect. Also, that accountant can make you realize, maybe you have an LLC, but then by you having an LLC, you might need to be an S corp, you might need to be a C corp. I don't know, but helping you identify what type of organization you need so that help you with that with them tax strategies. The accountant can also like put your mind at ease and help you with, what we talked about. What type of software should you get? If you're new in the business, maybe you've used these different CRMs for project, and maybe it's too expensive. Maybe the accountant may know, hey, we know about this, this type of CRM. Maybe you're using the invoicing system, and maybe your merchant fees are very high. Working with your accountant who sees multiple different type of merchant accounts, um, maybe they can sit here and help you do some cost savings. So, running a business is not always like, oh, I need it and just pay top dollar. It's also, working with an accountant or someone on your team that knows the different types of systems that are out there that's best fit for you. And, even though accountants work with numbers and numbers don't lie, but we also work with different software because we deal with a lot of different clients who may have different types of softwares that we can see like, oh, this will benefit this type of organization. So not using your accounting just for the numbers, but also for all of the information that we see every day, day in and day out with different organizations. So I think that is very, very important as well. Another thing is Not going to your accountant at the end of the year. Um, don't come to your accountant in October, November and be like, hey, I'm about to go buy this. What do I need to do? Making sure that you are looking at those financial reports each year, each month. What does this mean? Like I said, building strategies, looking at can you hire or can't you hire? Um, maybe you want to, like I said, buy some heavy machinery, using that accountant to help you get to that point where you can buy the machinery. Does it make sense? So I always tell some of my clients, I'm gonna buy a little risk to say what would Patrice do. Um, and I'm like, if you look down at your wrist and like Patrice is going to tell me no, then the answer is going to be no, so just making sure that we develop those trends. Like, we think about things that maybe you won't think about. Like I used an example earlier. Um, you wanted to buy a vehicle for $42,000. Excuse me, for $42,000 or $40,000. I think I said, I can't remember which one I said, 42 or 40. And your overhead costs $40,000 a month. Does that make sense for you to swipe clean out your bank account to go buy the machinery? We always use a rule of thumb to keep at least 3 months of overhead in your bank account. So, it doesn't make sense for you to go buy a $42,000 machinery and you have exactly 3 months of expenses in your bank account. So you have $120,000 in your bank account, that's to cover you for 3 months. Things happen. Projects get put on hold. You may not get paid right then. Like maybe they told you you're gonna get paid in 45 days. Well, if you got paid in 60, everybody knows the climate that we're in right now, things are all over there, up and down. So you working smarter and working with an accountant to make sure that you're prepared for that. It's not saying that you can't buy it right now. Well, buy it now, but you can buy it later. And how do we get there to make sure that your bank account and your overhead is covered, to make sure that you can make those purchases that you want to purchase? Um, Also working with your accountant, to find a good banker or a banker to find an accountant, just building your team. So I think that's very, very important when picking an accountant, make sure they can help you grow. So here, as I talked about, it's a central partner for building. Like I said, think about your accountant as a partner, not somebody that's telling you what to do, or somebody that just reports number and say, hey, you made $30,000 this month. You want somebody that you can count on to say, okay, I made $30,000 a month. What can I do better? Where did I spend my money? Things like this. You have to trust your accountant. We're an extension of your team. Like I said, if you're not sure who you need on your team, definitely, reach out to me, but you definitely need to have a team. The accountant is just one person of your team. Um, like I said, we want to ensure that you have smooth operations from the ground up, and maybe you don't have an accountant, but it's still to make sure if you didn't have one from the ground up, you didn't have one from the foundation, but it's still good to have one. Like I said, another thing is making sure that you have accurate execution, um, having precise reporting and payroll. Like I said, your own blueprint. Every business has a blueprint. The other thing is understanding that, you have a crazy schedule and you need answers when you need them. Of course, everybody has hours of operations, but making sure there's a way to communicate effectively with your team, and everybody on your team has different, hours operation, different ways to make, but making sure you get someone that basically answers your questions. I think that's important as well. Um, you know, as I stated before, making sure that an accountant's goal is to help the business transform your vision into financial success. Um, We operate as an extension of your team and provide support that helps your business grow confidently. I've heard, when a lot of people were going to get their DBEs or their, different certifications, one of the number one holdups is financials, right? Not having your tax returns done, not even having a profit and loss, not having a balance sheet. These are important when you want to get these certifications to make sure that you have these financials in order and that you're filing your taxes and that you understand that, because that has truly been the holdup for a lot of people getting different certifications throughout the state, federally, if you want to get your SAM, different things that hold you up from not having a proper accounting. So um, that can take a lot of stress out of running your business if you want to go and get these different projects and bids and things like that. Just having, that's a small thing, just making sure that you have that. And again, it's a tax write-off, right? It's a business expense. Well, I'm not gonna say a tax write-off, but it definitely is a business expense that we can write off for your business. So I think that's also important. Um, just like you have a business foundation, a blueprint, you also need to have a financial blueprint. Um, that is very important when you're running your organization because you want your organization to keep its door open, right? So, as I stated before, analyzing your financial blueprints and your business goals, you should be able to talk to your team, not just your accountant, but everyone in your team to say, this is what I want to do 2 years from now. This is what I want to do next year. And you should be able to lay out those goals, and your team needs to help you get to those goals. And of course, you got to be able to do whatever is necessary to get to those goals. So I think that's very important. I talked about earlier different types of systems, implementing robust accounting software, workflows, CRM, whatever the system is to get you to achieve your goals, then, your team should help you get there. Um, Keeping up with the business finances management, right? It's a huge part of your business, right? Payroll, bookkeeping, getting money in, spending money out. That's management, making sure that your business is operating efficiently. Like I said, it's keeping its doors open. That is important with running, your organization. And I spoke about tax planning and financial advising for expansion. Tax planning is imperative in your business. It's imperative. That's not something that you can keep turning a blind eye to. It doesn't matter what business you have, but you have to plan, right? As you grow, your tax bill can get bigger. What things is it that you can do to eliminate that tax burden? Um, Getting someone on your team, an accountant, to make sure that you are implementing different expenses to help your business grow is important. What is it that I can now implement, even as a business owner, making sure that you're protected? What type of insurances can you get? What type of retirement can you do? Maybe there's, I don't know, health insurance, things like that that you may want, and now you can implement as being a business. And a lot of people don't think about it or think that they can't afford it, but by making sure you're having that tax planning and that financial advising can set you up for those things that you want to do. So I think it's also important when you do find, your accountant, your banker, your lawyer, you need to sit down with each of them and tell them your goals. And your team needs to also work together. And that's something that's very, very important as well. Um, and so, and making sure that we understand your goals and, like I said, helping you implement the things and making sure that you have ongoing support to ensure your financial systems and remain strong as your business grows. So at this point, for the final inspection, want to make sure that the floor is open for questions. Um, Please do not hesitate to ask any questions because many business owners face similar financial challenges. So discussing these topics often helps other people that are on the call. So definitely ask any of your questions. Anybody?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Dorothy.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been very informative. I've gathered a lot of information. Do you all provide, you probably did when I stepped away to get a cup of coffee, answer my question, but do you all provide bookkeeping services? And I guess I would need to contact someone to get the prices or whatever, or how you all structure and do your bookkeeping services.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We
I'm
do
looking at it right
offer,
now.
yeah, we do offer bookkeeping services. So we are a full accounting firm. What that means is we do pretty much all things related to accounting. So we do taxes, we do bookkeeping, we do tax planning, payroll. We help people set up businesses. We help you set up your structures. We also advise on a lot of different things as well. So, yeah, we do all that. And I'll put my contact information up as well. Any other questions? Oh, you're welcome, Dorothy. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. I was wondering, what would be for somebody just getting started? Um, what would be your number one software to that you consider?
So at my firm, we do use QuickBooks. QuickBooks has what, 4 or 5 different levels, and it's pretty um, robust, and it's easy to learn. Some people, it's easy for the client to look at and see things. But we do use other software as well. Another one that everybody's been using is Wave. You got FreshBooks. You even have there's multiple different ones that people have, but I don't want people to confuse like if they have a bank account. I'm just going to use just using one bank. So like Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo will say you spent $1,000 on this, $2,000 on that, but it's just telling you a roundabout of what it thinks. So there's multiple different software, but like I said, we use QuickBooks mainly. That's our main, but we do have other software that we use as well.
Do you know of maybe an app that will track mileage or like a company's vehicle? Not necessarily a trucker, but just company's vehicles.
Yeah, there's multiple. You said for mileage, is that what you said? I'm sorry, I'm having a
Yes,
hard. Okay, yes. So
yes,
there's
mileage.
multiple different Mal app. So like I said, we use QuickBooks. They have one integrated into it. Another big one that I've seen a lot of people use for truckers is like Mal IQ. Um, but be mindful when you do use these mods, you have to go in and turn it on, turn it off. Yeah. Or some people keep it on all the time, but then you have to remember to go back in and say, this was for business, this was for personal. So there's multiple mileage apps, but just what popped in my mind was the mileage IQ. I just saw that. I've seen that, several times in the past couple of weeks that a lot of people are using. Like I said, most accounting softwares have a mileage app built into it as well. So if you use certain accounting software, um, it's already going to be built in and you're already paying for it. Whereas as opposed to going to get a different app and then you have to pay for that, so it depends on what you're going to be using. And that's something you could plan out, if you're going to be using a certain software that you can go and say, hey, I'm going to be using this software. Do they have a mileage app built into it? So you don't have to pay an extra fee.
Well, thank you so much.
Saw that Lynn had a question in the chat, but then it went away. So I'm not sure what happened to it. But Lynn, if you still had a question, if you want to feel free to type it back
Yes,
into
I
the
was
chat.
just going. Yeah, thank you. I was just going to ask that what software you recommend for receipts. Like sometimes you get a lot of receipts or invoice tracking or even billing tracking, and you said one of the ones you could recommend is QuickBook. Is that correct?
Yes, like I said, there's so many different. We use QuickBooks probably a majority of for our business, but like I said, there's multiple. We also use other software as well. So I would say whatever accounting software you use, it should have some of that already built into it. Making sure that it integrates whatever it is that you use, it integrates in your, whatever type of accounting software that you're going to use. I even see some CRM systems, if you use a CRM system, they already have where you can take pictures of receipts and things like that. And there are, again, multiple apps out there that, that can do, you know, take a picture for your receipts. There's one that can do billing, but the thing is you want something that encompasses everything. So you want to be paying a fee for this, a fee for that, a fee for that. You want to make sure that you get some software that does everything that you need.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does. So is there a software that you can say it's going to do everything? Like, track the receipts, track invoicing when you bill to vendors, and also at the same time be able to track payroll, like what comes in, what goes in, and the expenses.
Yeah, so like I said,
The
when
holistic.
yeah, so that's why I said we use QuickBooks and they can do all that and they also do project tracking as well. So that's what we use here. And like I said, there's different levels. So at each level, there's different,
Right.
they have the self-employment one, which doesn't do anything. Then they have, the next one up, which does this, but doesn't do that. Then they have the next one. So there's levels to the QuickBooks one that, give you the things that you need. Um, you might not have, so it just depends on what it is that you need. I can't even think of the name of the one that does everything that you're saying because they just changed some things around as far as their levels of them. But I know it's the one right below advanced that would give you everything that you need. And like I said, there's other ones as well out there that, again, it has multiple things built into it.
And those
One
should
stop
be able
shop.
to, and they should be able to generate, because one of the things we suffer from a small business is the ability to generate a balance sheet. Like, yes, we can track our expenses, we can track what's coming in, even if it's in Excel, or we can have those other software, but just an holistic software that can even generate for us like a balance sheet, over a period
Yeah.
of time, over a year.
Yeah, like I said, I would probably use QuickBooks for that because like I stated during the presentation, like some people they piecemeal it. Right, sends out your invoices, but then you don't have something that really tracks everything that goes on in your business. So you're piecemealing everything. So you want, and like I said, that's why we use what we use. But like I said, there's multiple different. So I think definitely important to look at the different softwares, or you can definitely reach out to us and we can give you a list. But like I said, at my firm, we use the QuickBooks and it pretty much does everything that you just said. Any other questions? And please feel free to ask questions. I guarantee you another person wants to maybe ask a question, but maybe they don't want to, but they might be having the same question.
Hey, Patrice, can you mind sharing your information in chat so people have a way to reach you? Or
Sure.
you already you have in slide too, but just in case you have another contact. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mhm.
If anyone has any questions for Patrice, feel free to come off mute or put it in chat or however you want to make yourself be heard. Just we have a little bit of time here. We actually finished a little early, so we do have time to answer any questions.
I think Dorothy's trying to say something, but we can't hear you.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
No questions. I just see See, thank you from Miss Mirna. Again, if you need, if any questions for either of us, feel free to reach out. I know a lot of y'all have my contact information. I'll put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll try to finish up because I figured we'll have a lot of questions. So I left the last few minutes for questions. Does everybody on the call know how much your overhead is?
Do?
Okay, that's good. All right, Crystal. So I think that's important where you need to know what your over because you need to know how much it costs to operate your business each month. So I think that's a thing that you definitely want to know, how much is it for me to do business each month? And that means everything, whatever you have to do business, pay your people, your subscriptions, any software that you have, any fees that you're supposed to pay, something that, and just to explain what overhead is, this means your day-to-day expenses to keep your business operating. That is important. You need to know what it costs to run your business. And if you don't know, that's a problem. Because you can't plan effectively if you don't know what it costs to run your business. Yeah, so I think that's just very, very important that you definitely know that information. So definitely feel free, anybody, if you want to reach out, scan that QR code, you can definitely get a free consultation, ask questions that you may not feel comfortable asking up here, and, we could definitely help you out. Sorry, I didn't type my name. I see she was typing, I think you was typing something, Crystal.
I was going to ask Conlon for his contact information. I didn't see that earlier. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah, so like I said, that's very important to know that, and definitely know what your run rate is. That's part of your, knowing what your overhead is, knowing basically it's your run rate, how much does it cost, and then also when you're doing projects, what's the run rate on a project, or most people come up with an average that they do for a run rate, and basically that means if they have similar projects dealing with the similar vendors, then their run rate may be X amount of dollars. So I think I talked about when it comes time for you to bid, knowing those numbers so you know how to bid appropriately and you're not underbidding. I see that a lot. Some people come and they're like, oh, I bid it X amount of dollars, but it really cost me this. So you really need to know what your run rate is and how much each project that you're doing, how much is it costing you? Because sometimes you have money coming in from project 1, 2, 3, and 4, and project 1 and 2 aren't making any money, but project 3 and 4 is making the money and is carrying the other project. So you in your mind are thinking that you're okay, but really you didn't make enough money to cover the entirety of the project. So this is also with what, an accounting system or an account can help you look at and figure out. It's basically figuring out how much your projects cost and are you making money on them? And if you're not, why? Just trying to figure out those things. I think that's important too. Any other questions? It's a good time to ask any question. There's no crazy questions. I think all questions are beneficial because it helps others.
You had mentioned getting certified, I guess it's hard for like a small business or a woman-owned business. Um, and the terms of information needed. The standard really has not been at that risk. Is it still a possibility of getting the certification, or do you need so much of a time frame of your accounting information?
I didn't hear that last part. You sound a little muffled, Crystal. I'm sorry.
Or do you need a specific amount of time for accounting information? Do you need a year's worth of information, or if you're just getting started and you really don't have much, then you should get certified?
So if you're just getting started and you need to come up for like your GC or whatever, they usually they can look at market market rates and things like that. You can also get with your banker. Like a lot of people don't know about this, but they have something called vertical AI. So when you go open up a bank account, and you talk with your bankers, ask them, can they run a vertical AI of your business? And they can kind of give you a roundabout of, how much your business can make in this particular, in whatever market you're in. And then you can definitely use that sometimes, depending on who is approving it. Because you may have not just started. And sometimes they'll look at, if you've been in business a month or 2 months, they are able to look at those financials as well. So no matter if you just started or not, they're going to want to see something, even if you have a budget. So sometimes you have maybe heard people like, I need to have a budget. So understanding what that budget is going to entail, and getting that together. Does that answer your question? I mean, I heard parts of your
Yeah,
question. Okay, good.
I'm sorry, yeah, it does, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I saw somebody come off mute, but I'll go.
parents I work with didn't go to that four schools. That's my dad.
Okay.
It looks like we didn't have any other questions, so that is it. Well, Patrice, again, thank you again for another wonderful presentation. Thank you for those who have attended. Those I know some have left already, but those who are still here, again, thank you for being with us today. I hope you got a lot out of the presentation. We're going to be, and also, so everyone who registered, we're going to share the slides. You'll have the slides that you can look at for review later on. But if there's no other questions for us, then I want to thank you all. You have a great rest of your day and
Thank
enjoy the
you.
weather.
Yes. Enjoy the weather. It's beautiful outside.
Thank you.